discussing a little bit of religion, a little bit of culture, history, human nature, all of the above. I yield the floor for the gentleman to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam. I'm here to continue the conversation that Marquett had previously about Christianity being a white supremacy religion. I think it was pretty clear that Marquett actually won that debate, I have to admit. I don't think the brother who he was debating articulated himself particularly well, nor did he seem to know his own religion, which was a little disappointing, but it was definitely entertaining to say the least. So I'm here to continue that conversation in my own way, and I appreciate Marquette for responding to my DM and allowing me to come on his platform to talk about this. So hopefully we can have a more articulate discussion this time.
At the least, I do have my pen here to take some notes and learn because I always enter a conversation willing to learn.
Likewise.
And excellent. And also, I hope everyone knows that this is not Oxford Union and we are not Europeans and we don't have to follow what has been set forward, which is to say that so often you have people who typically are not formally educated. They've been educated on YouTube and they've learned some of the logical fallacies and they try to shape the discussion within those frames. And they'll suggest that we should not analyze the speaker. I'm very big on analyzing the speaker because as we have this arid intellectual contention outside of academia, we're having this for the public, everyday people, the lay people who will take guidance from the conversation. It will impact their life. And there's no doubt that we all have driving forces and motives, and even intelligence can be used for wicked ends. And so it's important for us to know who is speaking, why they're speaking, and what outcome they're trying to achieve. So I want that to be known, and that is a standard that I will continue to reiterate. Moreover, I yield the floor for you to provide gambit or establish your argument.
Sure. So I'll repeat verbatim the same argument that I gave you on Instagram. I wrote it down word for word so that the audience could know it as well. So I'll just read it. If Christianity began in the Middle East and the disciples of Jesus spread his teachings throughout Asia Minor and the Roman Empire, that origin doesn't begin with white supremacy, since the disciples and early followers of said religion in the Roman province of Judea were not white themselves. That's my stance on it.
Very good. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No.
Okay. All right. And I'm not precisely sure which conversation you're continuing because I've had a few conversations on the topic of religion, although it's my least favorite topic, but because religion is so widespread. And I think the initial purpose, had greater meaning. I have to deal with it, even though it's really a fool's errand. So you posit that Christianity started in Judea. Is that what you said?
Judea, Samaria, the prefecture, yes, where the early disciples of Yeshua, or Jesus as we know, came from.
Uh-huh. Okay. And you are Congolese?
Yes.
Are you 100% Congolese or mixed or?
Both my parents are from Congo, but I was born here in the States.
Wow, that's impressive. They from Kinshasa or more so on the outskirts?
My dad is from Kinshasa, yes. My mom's from the outskirts. That's very good.
Okay, very good. Have you been to Congo?
No, my parents never wanted to take me, unfortunately. So now I've taken it upon myself to plan a trip on my own.
I recommend it. It's somewhere to check out. Do you speak any other languages, French or Swahili or any tribal language?
Un peu français comme ci, comme ça. A little bit of Lingala, but not much to get around, unfortunately.
Oh, I think you'll do just fine, especially among the young people. It's not, say, the most stable and safe place. That's primarily due to the Western powers, a couple of
Yeah.
Arab countries, and the Chinese. But you can get on just fine. All of these places are described generally as more scary than they actually are, especially if you're sticking to the city. And I trust if both your parents were raised there, right? They have some connection to Kinshasa and probably to the government, in fact, I would think. So You're arguing that Christianity is not a white supremacist religion. Is that correct?
No, what I'm actually arguing is that though it has been used by white supremacists as a tool to manipulate and to spread harm and to basically demonize and to, subjugate Black people for a long time, I wouldn't argue that, though that's happened, the beginning and the origin didn't stem from that whatsoever. But it has morphed into something that is a bit, disturbing, even to me as a
Okay.
follower of Christ. Yeah, it's very disconcerting to see. I
So
will admit.
today you would describe yourself as a Christian.
Y- yes, a follower of Christ. Yes.
What would be the difference between a Christian and a follower of Christ?
So, talking to many different Christians, I've noticed that I'll talk to a Catholic and they'll say, "Yeah, I'm Catholic, but I'm Christian." Or I'll talk to a Mormon and they'll say, "Oh, yeah, I'm Mormon, but I'm Christian." Or I'll talk to a Methodist or a Baptist or a evangelical or a Presbyterian and they'll say, "Oh, yeah, I'm Christian, I'm Christian." But then when I ask them, "What is your theology? What are your beliefs?" I notice they're all distinctively different. And
Yes.
for me, being on my own journey, I've come to have a conundrum with that. I've always had a bit of an apprehension to that. And I've always wondered, well, why that is. Why is it that all these different groups, Christian denominations from face value, yet they all disagree with each other and they all seem to have contention with each other? And
What
I've kind of been on a journey to discover why that is. And maybe it's because they've gone so far away from the roots of what their beliefs were supposed to be that they've now been morphed into some sort of man-made theology with their own spin on it, and then they present it out to the people. Whether it's a Kenneth Copeland or a Joel Osteen or even a Jim Jones, if we're going to go down the rabbit hole, you know, that's the conundrum, I think, for many people who are Christians, even like me.
so do you object to the idea that at the beginning it was as well man-made?
So, different manuscripts of the Bible, when it was written in Aramaic and Hebrew, they were written by men, obviously. Someone had to write the ink on the parchment with the quill. Obviously, I'm not going to
Is that
deny
true?
that. The writings in the beginning in
You
Aramaic and
stated,
Hebrew.
so I posed a question. I said, do you believe maybe at the beginning it was also man-made? And then you have stated, now mind you, you're a believer in the supernatural. You stated that someone had to write down the teachings on parchment. And I said, well, is that true? Because you believe in a God, which is supernatural. You believe in a Jesus who died, came back to life, which is very supernatural. So why is it that something so fundamental and human had to happen for the Bible to be recorded? Why couldn't it just be written on our souls? Why couldn't it be embedded in our memories like pre-installed software? Why couldn't it be just given to everyone in their own language? Why don't we speak all the same language? You said
Because
it
I
had to be written by a man, is what I'm challenging.
It had to be written down by men for sure and passed down from generations to generations for sure.
But why
But
is the
I
question? Did you get my point about why didn't God just pre-install it on our mind and have us
Sure.
all know it from memory?
Sure, yes, I can answer that. I think it's
Good.
because there was some kind of supernatural force that wanted to give free will. So if God wrote it down in our memory and in our hearts and in our minds from beginning, there would be no free will because then we would be
Can I find that explanation
subjugated.
in your scriptures?
Which scriptures in particular?
Whatever scripture you use as a follower of Christ. The explanation you just gave, can I find that in your scriptures?
Well, I think if you look from the beginning, from Genesis to Revelation, what you can find is human beings are very fallible and very primitive by nature.
Do
And
you
I
have a
think if
verse I could look up? Because I have actually read from Genesis to Revelations many times. I actually used to teach on the Bible. And so I'm yielding to your understanding. If you could point me to a chapter and verse that might validate what you just said. I'm trying to separate your guessing and your speculation from that which is the truth, the word of God.
Sure. So if you go to the book of Matthew or the book
Okay.
of Luke, there is a verse towards the end where Jesus is on trial before Pontius Pilate, who was the governor of Judea. And basically, Jesus says that there was a purpose why I came and the message I'm delivering to bear witness to the truth. And he says that all those who are on the side of truth hear my voice. And Pontius Pilate, who is a Roman agnostic who doesn't believe in any of that, he says, what is truth?
Okay, so let's break that up. There's quite a bit of information there. So if we can take it piece by piece. So Jesus is a component of God. Is that correct in your understanding?
So I believe the symbolism is, in some terms, that he represented something, that something, in terms of being a certain higher power or being, you could say that, yes.
So is Jesus God?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Jesus is God. And I'm just saying within your framework, I think 100% of your framework is representative of what human beings have done throughout time. Religion is a fill gap where we lack understanding or the ability to explain something. And those of us who cannot deal with the fact of, I don't know, we hold on tight. And those of us who are most fearful, which is typical of human nature, we hold on tight because the Bible plays on fear very heavily. Fear thy God. But then you have the ruler class, and the ruler class is able to use this tool very strategically to modify behavior, and behavior modification has been one of the chief aims of the ruling class since time immemorial, and this is a fine tool. It's highly effective. And so I understand it as such. Every group of people have their own mythology and creation story, kind of like the Romans have Romulus and Remus. The only comedy is that blacks, such as yourself, or I should say Africans, you take on the origin stories of another people, or you take on the mythology of another people, which is only representative of the foolishness that ails your group. And apparently not much has changed in half a century. But anyways, so I say that to say, when I speak within the context of Christianity or the Bible, I'm playing in your sandbox. But I realize that it's a filthy place to be, as in, given the fact that it's all falsehood. Anyways, so you said that Jesus is either God or a component of God. And in as much as that's the case, he lowered himself to human form, which is itself bizarre, but makes perfect sense. If you're trying to influence people and teach them how to behave, you have to give them a model that is representative of them. So it makes it easier for them to conceive of how to act, yes, to example things. It's the basic in pedagogy. I do, we do, you do. So example, I do. So you teach the people. So Jesus was the example, living, just walking around like a man. But in terms of actual like theology and ideas, it's really bizarre that God lowers himself to being a human. Then what's even more bizarre, you say Pontius Pilate, who presumably was not supernatural at all. He was just a mere man like you and I. Is that correct?
Yes.
So he lowered himself not only to being a human, but then being judged by a human, then being abused by humans, and then murdered by humans. And then he dies and comes back to life. And that's the most important metaphor that we have to understand. And it's really important because, as I stated earlier, human beings are very fearful animals. And our greatest fear is what?
Well, if you talk
You know,
to
you know it. No, it's simple. It's one word. Our greatest fear is what? You know it. You know it. Everyone knows it.
you're
Smart people
referring
know
to
it. Dumb people
fear,
know it.
sure. Can I answer?
Yes.
Fear of the unknown or fear of God
Unreal.
or
Unreal. 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 Let's see if the chat is any sharper. Folks, in one word, what is the greatest fear of an individual human? What is the
death?
greatest fear? Death.
Death.
Aha. Okay. So now you're not playing games. Thank you. I appreciate that. And as I noted in my last talk, anytime you speak with a religious person, you know, fundamentally, they are dishonest because you cannot be honest while saying that you hear voices. You also can't be mentally sane while saying that you hear voices. And most importantly, you cannot have high EQ, emotional intelligence, while being psychologically dependent on this thing. As I stated previously, rather you stated for me, that death is the greatest fear of the human being. With that being the case, then the Bible says, okay, well, I understand the cheat code to ruling the human mind and psyche. It's death. And then we take this Jesus figure, put him on earth like you, let him walk around, give you an example. This is all story because no one's ever seen this. Let him walk around, give you the example, and then he'll die and we'll bring him back to life. He escapes death, the biggest fear. And then we'll incentivize good behavior by saying we will give you eternal life, which is impossible, if you obey and are a slave to us, the royal we, God in this Trinity. So obey and we give you eternal life. but disobey, and we give you hell and constant punishment, which is a basic in psychology, which is that people seek reward and they avoid punishment. It's a basic in psychology. And so we see that this book is a very simple torture method on controlling the masses. I yield the floor.
It can certainly be used as a tool to control the masses, or it can be used to bring great good in the world. If you want to look at an example, you can look at the abolitionist movement with people like William Wilberforce, who used Christianity and
You don't find that to be a comical example? You're basically saying Christianity stopped slavery, but you'd have to also acknowledge that the Christians started the slavery. And in fact, there was a slave ship named Jesus. I find that to be the most bizarre example. It's almost like you're setting yourself up. You don't find that to be comical?
Well, no, because if you read in the book of Exodus, chapter 21, verse 16, it actually talks about what should happen to someone who kidnaps a man and tries to sell him.
Well, if we're going to give references on slavery, we can look in both the Old Testament and the New Testament, and there's no major condemnation of enslavement. I think if you've read the book, you actually know that there's in excess of 6 references that clearly state that slavery is okay and good business. In fact, there's one group, and let's see how well you know the good book. There's one group that was in bondage. They were in slavery. They escaped slavery. And then they, in turn, made others slaves. Do you know what story I speak of? This is your book, not mine.
The Hebrews. Who were enslaved in Egypt for 400 years.
And then?
And then they were set free, and then they went and enslaved other people.
Were they condemned for that?
Well, what do you mean by condemned?
Were they condemned? For example, if you look at the story of Lot, you look at certain instances, you find that people are condemned. They suffer death. They suffer drowning. They suffer punishment. What was their punishment for enslaving?
Well, some historians would argue that their subjugation by the Romans and their loss of their own autonomy could have been a punishment. Some might argue.
The punishments that I just referenced were punishments direct from God. Do you see the difference here?
I see the difference, but
Okay,
I
very
think
good.
in terms of punishments by human beings, I think you can also include that in the equation, could you not?
No, because that wasn't the parameter. The human beings are not the all-knowing, all-good force. That would be God. So when God condemns something, we know for certain that it is bad. As you stated earlier, human beings are fallible. And so we can know most definitely that something is bad if God condemns it. And there are several instances in which God not only condemns, but murders in mass. And so what I'm pointing out to you is that this is something that God did not condemn. And I could go into other examples of how slavery is just fine in the Christian faith. You'd be dishonest to argue against it. But as I state consistently, you cannot be religious and honest at the same time, because you must always make excuses. You must always reinterpret. And then when the scripture fails you, then you're going to run and say, oh, well, you have to interpret using the Holy Spirit. You know, when the words don't add up.
I never said the word Holy Spirit.
I didn't say that you had said it.
Oh, I don't understand. What do you mean the Holy Spirit? I never said that.
Well, you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention.
I'm paying attention.
I never said that you said that. I'm just predicting, because you're a clone. I've seen you many times. That's why I'm just telling for the audience so that they can categorize you rightly. I've seen you many times. And I'll give you guys an example. And let me teach you something about yourself if you don't mind. I think it's really important that we understand who we are. You see, I have a 3-sentence Bible. Number 1, be yourself. Be yourself. Number 2, be good to yourself. Number 3, be good to good people. The challenge is most people don't know who they are. You're here arguing against Christianity being white supremacy. And I'm here to prove that you are the perfect person to argue that, because you yourself are a white supremacist and you're a victim of white supremacy. If you give me a moment to teach, let's take a look at this. You're Congolese, right?
Yes. I didn't know we were doing ad hominem now.
No. We haven't had an ad hominem.
Well, you're pulling up my Instagram.
Yes. And I'll pull mine up if you'd like, but give me a moment to teach. I'd like to teach you about yourself. I'd like to teach you about yourself. You are Congolese. You're a real African. You're 100% African on both sides. You have, and I really want to tell you, like, at some level, Black Americans, we really admire you guys who are real Africans. You come from Congo. You could have spoken your own language from your tribe. You could dress like who you are from your tribe. You could have your own religion instead of the white man's from your tribe. But instead, you speak like a white man, you dress like a white man, and you praise a white man as God. Now, let me show you what I mean. Pay attention to this. Let me prove to you, really to the audience, because you're beyond help, but let me prove that you're a white supremacist, and that's why you're here to defend your whiteness. So watch this. Mind you, I want everyone to know the difference between you and I is my ancestors were probably taken advantage of. I may have European blood in me because we've been here for 400 years. You're pure African. You're Congolese. You probably are pure blooded. You probably don't have any European in you. But yet so badly you wish you did. Now watch this. Watch this. Let me show you who you are, who you've become. And if you'd be kind enough to help me learn just a little bit as we move through. Is this one of your relatives here?
No. Oh,
no.
That's my brother. Yeah, that picture.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Okay, that's your brother. You know, I knew it was your brother because I figured you guys kind of look similar. Good-looking young man. Both of you guys, good-looking young men. You guys both dress like a standard white frat boy. But let's go on. Let me teach you something. We'll take some data so that you don't think it's ad hominem. It's just a matter of observation. So we have a picture. You're here with a white guy. Here's your own family. Guess you can't avoid that. Here you're with a white woman. Here you're with a white woman. Scroll up, next one. You're with a white woman. There's your own family again. Okay, fair enough. Here you are with two white men. Okay, that's your own family yet again. Scroll up. It's you. That's your own family. You're with another white woman. Here you are with a group of people, mostly white. Here you are with another person, Caucasian, white, white, white. Scrolling up more. Playing lacrosse, extraordinary. Then you're with your own family, scrolling up more. You're with a white woman, haven't seen a black woman, haven't seen any black guys one-on-one with you. Here you are with your arms around two white guys. Here you are with a white girl. Carrying on, more of the Caucasians, whites. Here's one black guy. Are you related to this guy right here?
No, that's a childhood friend.
Okay, very good. So there we are now at 1 of 38. We're at 1 of 38. Here you are with a white woman. Is this the same guy from the last photo?
No, that's a different guy, actually.
Okay,
He's
great.
Congolese too, actually.
Okay, very good. We're at barely. None of you are Congolese. You guys are all white. You're white on the inside and white in the mind. So the Congolese thing doesn't exist anymore. So this is 2 of 39. Here's another white girl coming back. There's a black guy. So that's 3 of 40. That's 4 of 40. Here's more white. Here's more white, Caucasian, white, Caucasian. There's your brother again. Caucasian, white. There's your family members. White, Caucasian, white, overwhelmingly white, but I thought you were black, overwhelmingly white. Where are the blacks? White, I thought you were African, white. Now, just from a data standpoint, I'd have to ask myself, why is it that this black guy, when I say black, I really should emphasize black, because you're about the extent of what black could be. You're from Congo, which is a landlocked country way deep in the heart of Africa. That's what you actually are. You're from Congo, a landlocked country deep in the heart of Africa. You're as black can get. It's hard for you to not be black because you would theoretically have less contact with foreigners because Congo doesn't have a port, right? Or am I getting my geography wrong? Because I'm kind of white like you.
It's a landlocked country.
Oh, okay, great. So I'm as smart as I thought I was. So what we can notice from your profile is that for whatever reason, maybe it was your parents, wouldn't be surprised, probably your own choice because you chose to post those photos and you chose to make those associations. There is a preponderance of whites. You dress white, you talk white, you worship the white man's religion. You don't have your traditional dress, you don't have your traditional speech and language, you don't have your traditional religion. You are a white supremacist, and you're here arguing on behalf of masses' religion. That's what you fail to understand. Do you at least acknowledge that in a country as diverse as this one, with you being a pure African, you don't find it strange that everything about you is so white? You don't think you're a victim of white supremacy?
So just because of my pictures, you're saying that I'm a white supremacist?
Are you going to
I
play
thought
dumb?
we were,
Everyone
I
can
thought,
see. Just real quick, before you play dumb, I just want you to know tens of thousands of people will see you. Right now, 1,000 people are watching you.
I'm well aware.
Before we're over, tens of thousands will see you. Are you
I'm well
going to
aware.
play dumb like you don't understand what I'm saying to you?
No. I just thought we were going to debate Christianity and white
We're
supremacy.
debating white supremacy and Christianity. Right now, we're on the white supremacy part.
So
Don't run.
No, I'm not running. I'm right here.
You are
speaking to
running.
you.
You're asking me if we're debating the right thing because you don't want to debate this. And what I'm
No,
telling
we
you,
can, if you
and this
want
is
to,
no,
sure.
and this is not unusual. What I'm telling you is that you are a walking, talking representative of white supremacy. Unlike me, it's been 400 years since those who share my blood knew that which they came from, since they had their feet on the soil that is our own. It's been 400 years. Easy to forget where you came from. Easy to forget your language, folkways, mores, and religion.
My parents
But
never let me forget where I came from.
Yes, you
They
have.
remind me of it each and every day.
Let me ask you a question. Since you're sitting here lying. When I scroll through your profile, if you didn't have a Congolese flag, do you believe that there's any way for someone to assess that you're Congolese?
Well, it depends who you're talking to, I guess.
You're talking to someone who is very well traveled. In fact, I would even challenge that unless you know Bill Clinton, I'm probably more well traveled than Bill Clinton, but you get the point. I am the most well traveled person that you've ever talked to, ever in your entire life. And I surmise that you will die in that state with me having been the most well traveled person you've ever talked to. And this would include some places that are in active war that you probably shouldn't go to, like Yemen or Syria. So if I look and I can't tell that you're Congolese, how could anyone tell? Doesn't it seem like I know a little bit about Congo? Doesn't it seem that way?
Well, I always like to tell people I'm Congolese. I'm not ashamed of it.
Do you know when the Belgians
about Kinshasa.
Do you know when the Belgians took over Congo? What year was that?
King Leopold came during the 1800s, I believe.
Well, that's a 100-year range. Was it 1801, 1802, 1840, 1885 maybe?
I can't remember the
Yeah, I think it was
year.
maybe 1885 is if I had to just ballpark it and guess.
Sure.
See, but that's your history.
I am aware of King Leopold and what he did in Congo, yes.
I don't think you are, because you didn't even know when he showed up.
But I know that he did something there, for sure. And we can get into that if you want.
Who was there before the Belgians?
What European power was there before
Yes,
the Belgians?
before the Belgians, yes. Who had influence in your country, your territory before the Belgians?
Was it the French?
Was it the French? Was it the Portuguese? Are you asking me or are you telling me?
I believe it was the French.
Because you're a Christian, and I would think you might be interested in, like, maybe, well, how did Christianity first come to Congo? Was it force? Was it imperialism?
The Roman Catholic Church.
I don't know. Is that true? Who brought Christianity first to the Congo?
The Europeans.
Which ones, though?
The Belgians, and then before that, apparently another.
I swear,
European.
I could have sworn I thought it was the Portuguese. I could be wrong. Let me check, because I thought it was the Portuguese. Just let me check real quick.
Maybe it was the Portuguese.
Okay, maybe it was. So my whole point is that you came on here to tell me about the history of a European book and European people and European religion, also European, also known as white. But the bizarre thing is that you don't know your history. And even more sad than that is me, just a random black guy who's certainly not Congolese. I know your history better than you know your history. And I think it's because I know your history, that's why it saddens me so much to see that you are such a white supremacist. Because of what the whites did to you guys, which was far more brutal than what they did to us. Often silly Africans will say things like, you guys were enslaved. But, some of you guys suffered worse than us by far. Do you know what the primary pursuit was there in Congo? The natural resource they want to exploit?
Yes, the resource was used to make tires, if I
Rubber.
recall correctly.
Rubber.
Rubber.
Yes,
Yes,
rubber. Exactly. That's right. There you go. You're getting there. Do you know what they would do to your people when they would not work and make quotas?
they would cut off their limbs.
The limbs. Do you know they did that to the children?
Yes,
Do you also know the people who were cutting the limbs off were Christians?
Roman Catholics. Yes,
Are those Christians?
some might say they are. Yes, some might say they aren't.
Some might say. We're playing word games here. Fascinating. I didn't know we were playing word games. Would
Well,
the Roman Catholics say that they're
if you
Christians?
if you talk to a Mormon and you ask them, they'd probably say no.
Well,
Or maybe an Episcopalian.
Mormonism is not very old. It was created in the United States, and so it's very much so out of line with mainstream Christianity. So no one would ask a Mormon. A Mormon wouldn't even come up in such a conversation if we're being honest. Whereas the Catholic Church is actually very well institutionalized and internationally respected. Not to say that the Mormons don't have significant missions, often to Africa, which is ironic because they used to view Africans as evil inherently, which is a bit of irony for Europeans to view any group as evil. But I'm asking you about the Catholics, who do have a very clear orthodoxy and are well respected the world over. If I were at the Holy See and I asked, well, are you guys Christians? Do you think that Catholics would say, yes, we're Christians, or no, Marquett, we're not Christians?
Yes, they would.
They would say they're Christians. Okay.
Yes.
So why do you feel the need to play then when we both know the answer? Why
I'm not playing.
lie? Like, why
I'm
lie?
not playing. I'm not playing with you.
Okay. I think the reason you didn't want to say, yes, they're Christians is because you would then have to let go of the cognitive dissonance and accept the fact that your Christian brothers have been consistently brutal, vicious, and deadly throughout the whole planet Earth, but particularly in your home. And when you want to make an argument about Christianity not being white supremacist, I find it challenging to even deal with or entertain such an argument coming from a white supremacist. We looked at your Instagram and we can't assess anything that shows us that you are Congolese. In fact, if I snatched your black body out of all of those photos and all those preppy white guy clothes, we could easily switch in a white guy and we'd be none the wiser because there is no mark of culture on you. And that only shows to the complete erasure of who you actually are. And that's because not only you, but also your parents hate themselves enough that they passed on no culture to you. I yield the floor. And I say that all just as a point of fact, not to be disrespectful.
No. I don't take it as disrespect. You're entitled to your own opinion.
It's not an
I'm
opinion.
actually-
It's observable fact. I'm referencing things that we all saw with our eyes. Like, for example, if you were Habesha and I looked at your profile, I might be able to see women with a particular hair braiding style that's used at weddings. I might see a particular dancing, which I find to be pretty comical and pathetic, but they do this little dance right here. And I can see culture if you were Habesha because the Habesha have never been colonized. The Italians were there for a time, but the Ethiopians have never been colonized. And it's very evident when you look at their social media or anything about them because they still have culture and they have self-regard and self-respect. Conversely, with you, all I saw was whiteness. And it's like you're lying about it. That's the weird part. It's like, why lie about it?
No, it's not that I'm lying. It's just that you don't know me aside from my Instagram.
Is your Instagram created by someone else?
No.
Is your
but you
Instagram
don't
managed
know me.
by someone else?
No.
Do they say a picture's worth 1,000 words?
Yes.
Is it not a photographic documentary of what you've been and what you have chosen to highlight?
Okay.
I'm asking, is it not a documentary of what you have chosen to highlight about yourself?
Yes, but I am quite proud of my heritage. I don't know why you think I'm
Have you
not.
been to Congo?
Not yet.
Have you even been next to Congo? Like Rwanda or something like that? Or like maybe go to Kigali, get close to it?
I've actually been thinking of Burundi. That's quite near.
Have you been to any of those places?
Not yet.
Okay. But you're quite proud. Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is fake, you see, because you're as Congolese as I am. And in fact, I might be more Congolese because I know the history more than you. And I've probably I've been a lot closer than you, and I probably know more Congolese people as a result of choice as opposed to like circumstance of birth. What if I'm more Congolese than you? Like, what makes you Congolese? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
The cultural connection with my family, who are Congolese, that I keep
Oh,
in
so,
touch with.
so it's like if I was like white and I have like a lot of black friends, then I'm black too, type of
No,
situation.
because your friends aren't your family.
Okay, so if I was like, if I'm white and I'm adopted by a black family, I'm black too now?
Well, I wasn't adopted by Congolese. I am Congolese. My parents are from Congo.
No, you're not Congolese.
You
That's
can
my
say that,
point.
sure. You can
Like,
speculate that.
you're saying you're Congolese because of your blood, is what you're saying. You're saying
Yes.
literally the only thing that's Congolese about you is your blood. That's what you're saying. Do you realize that?
No, my blood, my culture, my
What
heritage,
culture do, oh gosh.
the language my parents still speak in their home to this
Okay.
very day.
Okay. Here's this is so bizarre. Do you speak a Congolese language?
My parents never taught me.
Okay, I'm gonna try that one more time. Try it one more time. See, and this is again with the Christians, no integrity. Do you speak a Congolese language?
No,
No. Why couldn't we just start with the truth, which would be no?
because I know a little bit of Lingala, but I'm not fluent.
I have a feeling that there's a huge gap between fluent and where you are. I have an eerie feeling.
There's a huge gap. You're right.
Okay, yeah. I figured as much. So, only thing that I'm pointing out to you with love is that this is a far cry from being Congolese. Not only are you not Congolese, you are as close as one can get to being white without bleaching their skin. Yes, I get it. You were born and raised in America. Yeah, me too. As were my parents and my grandparents and my great grandparents and my great 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 grandparents and their parents and their great great grandparents. I'm 1,000 times more American than you are today and 1,000 more times American than you could ever be because we were here before America was America. And still, despite that, I am not as taken and snatched by whiteness as you are. And this is typical of Africans, very typical of Africans. They come here, hate themselves, try their best to get in with the whites. And this is no hatred to whites. I surmise I probably know more white people than you, and I certainly have more white people in my family than you, voluntarily or involuntarily. That being the case, so what I want you to not understand, because you understand, what I want you to stop denying is your discourse, discourse with a capital D. Discourse represents a number of things about a person, not only how you speak, but how you exist in the world, how you wear clothes, how you choose to wear them. Like, for example, this right here, you have these probably Oakley sunglasses on a strap. You see, that is something that is deeper than just sunglasses on a strap. It's a style that a black guy would never wear. It's chiefly white. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just pointing out to you that there's 1,000 markers that someone who is sharp can see that shows what culture you have selected into. And the fact that you pretend blindness only doubles down on the fact that we couldn't trust what you're saying. And your parents or you routed you into sports that are chiefly white, like this one right here. What is this, lacrosse?
I wasn't good at basketball, so I had to pick lacrosse.
So this is lacrosse. Gotcha.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. As a white supremacist, I'm a part-time white supremacist. You Africans are good at everything. I mean, after all, that's why we enslaved you Congolese, because you're strong and you work hard. Not strong in the mind, but strong in the body. So the idea that you couldn't play any other sport is ludicrous. You play lacrosse because it's the white guy sport, and you don't have to be around a bunch of black guys playing football or playing basketball. You play the white or running track. So you play the white guy sport. Lacrosse is one of the whitest sports you could ever play.
I did run track in high school, actually, yes.
Well, let me see if I can find the track pictures real quick. Let's see if I can find those track pictures, something a little more black. We tend to think of Jamaicans, Ethiopians, and Kenyans, blacks, when we think of track. Let's see. So I'll start from the bottom again. So there's lacrosse. Okay. More whites. Oh, there's another lacrosse photo. Okay, looking for the track. Whites, Caucasians, Caucasians, whites. Where's the running stuff with the black runners, the sprinters and the long jumpers and whites? Where is that? You didn't show any of that? I thought you said you were a track guy.
I never posted any pictures of it, no.
Oh, okay. So what you've chosen to do, which is in line with my thesis, is that you've chosen to highlight that which is quintessentially white. That's my point here. And you see,
Sure, if you can speculate that, sure.
no, there's no speculation. We're literally looking at a primary document. In history, it's called a primary source. We're looking at
So
a primary
you're
source.
saying
There's
that
no
I didn't run
speculation
track,
here.
is what you're saying. I didn't run track.
That's called a straw man. You're arguing against something that I've not posed as an argument. No, I'm not
Okay.
suggesting you didn't run track. I'm suggesting that even
Sure.
if you did, you chose not to highlight it because it doesn't reek of whiteness as lacrosse does. That's what I'm saying. Do you understand now?
Yes.
Okay. So do you understand like my fundamental point about the very reason that you're driven to be here right now and defend whiteness is because whiteness is so embedded in your brain and in your skull. Like I couldn't find one photo on your profile, which is actually quite extensive, to be honest with you. Like you have an extensive profile. Let me see how many postings you have 192 postings. I think I got 270, which is extraordinary that we have such a similar amount because I have 270,000 followers, right? So like kind of makes sense that I got to make posts. So you have an extensive profile, yet I don't see one place where you're wearing cultural garb from any culture other than white culture. That's my whole bit about white supremacy. Does that follow or no?
So you're saying I'm ashamed of my culture.
I'm not saying that. I'm stating that in observing a primary source, which you were actually the author of, we observe not one single hint of culture. Conversely, if you were to observe mine, which it would make every bit of sense for me to reek of whiteness. My family's evolved alongside white people for 400 years, you see. We never had the chance to pass on a language. But you can see me in Moroccan garb, jalabiya. You can see me in Indonesian garb. You can see me in African garb. But in your case, you really stick to the whites. And that's my point, is that that's where you want to be. And it's okay. I'm just saying, come out of the closet with it. Like, don't lie to us and act like you're a proud Congolese. That's a lie. You're not a proud Congolese. You're just as much a proud Congolese as you are a proud Vietnamese. I found as much evidence of you being Vietnamese as I did of you being Congolese. And that's my point, is this is a come in, to put it in your Christian talk, this is a come to Jesus moment. I'm the first person who's ever brought this before your eyes and said, look, you're a white supremacist.
Well, when I'm around my cousins who are Congolese and speak the language of Lingala, I don't feel like I'm detached from my culture. Actually, I feel quite close to it the more I'm with them. And especially when I hear my parents speaking in Lingala, or if I hear other Congolese friends speaking in Chiluba or Kikongo, to me, that draws me more closer to my culture than anything, just to hear those dialects and those languages. So I can understand how you feel that since you see my
Don't try to
Instagram and everything.
trivialize and say how you feel. We're not dealing in feelings. We're dealing in facts and evidence here.
Well, I'm trying to give you facts
So,
that I feel connected to my culture, but you're
yes, but
dismissing those facts.
no, you're dismissing the arguments. In fact, instead of validating or dispelling the arguments, you just went on to things that are unrelated. So you've not dealt with the argument at all,
So
actually. You've not conceded at all. You've not said, Marquett, gee, that's a really good point, actually. I have no hint of my culture whatsoever.
so
Like,
the
you've not conceded
dialects.
anything. You're not even a reasonable person.
Well, sure. Can I speak?
You were just speaking and all you did was go on a red herring. You literally didn't address my arguments.
What is the red herring? If
A red herring is when you go away from the current topic. It's your third logical fallacy that you've highlighted
What is the
in
red
practice.
herring that I was going into? That's what you're saying specifically.
So we were looking at a primary document, which was your audio, excuse me, it was your video, audio, and photographic document that you created, which recounts your life over time. It shows a preponderance of being among whites, using white styles, speaking a European language, and doing everything exclusively that whites would do. It. The only thing that would indicate that you're not white would be the fact that you're clearly black, which is your skin. But if I were to like snap my fingers and replace your skin and your phenotype to that of a European, no one would find your Instagram to be any more, it wouldn't be strange at all, because everything about it is white and European. And the fact that you have not acknowledged, like, damn, like that's a really good point. I never thought of it that way. I never noticed that I have a huge disproportionate overrepresentation of whites and Caucasians, which is a fact. I never noticed that. You're right. There's not one mark of culture on me in the whole nearly 200 photos that document my life over a decade. You've not addressed any of it. You just went on to unrelated things that we can't verify.
Well, would you say that someone's upbringing from their culture is a mark or no?
Apparently not. I mean, look at how your parents did you. If it was something that was a strong cultural anchor, they probably would have passed it on to you. I think they were looking to get rid of it as quickly as they can, and they produced you as a result of how they felt about their culture. It's a representation.
Well, would they still speak in their native language around me if they felt they were trying to get rid of me from it?
Did they teach you their native language? Are you fluent in it?
Unfortunately, not. They didn't.
Okay, so I rest my case. For example, here in the United States of America, even in Los Angeles, where Spanish is not looked well upon, unlike, say, Miami, where it's looked well upon, you have people whose first language is Spanish, and their kids, their first language is Spanish. They learn English at school. When they go home, they speak their native tongue. Your situation has been different, and that was due to the choices of your parents. And the fact that you won't concede at all that your parents have made every effort in a practical sense to eradicate all of your culture, yeah, I find it to be quite sad. And here's something for you to observe. If I wanted, and I'm sure of it, within the space of a week, and I mean that in a literal sense, not to be hyperbolic, within the space of a week, I could learn enough that if we both were dropped in Congo and people were blind, you'd be no more Congolese than I am. And I could learn that in the space of a week.
Enough of which language particularly?
It doesn't matter, because whatever you don't know that much of it. And I'm smart enough that in the space of a week, I can surpass you. And in terms of history of your country, I already know a lot more than you. Not a little bit, but a lot more. You don't even know the history of your country.
Well,
you don't even know the history.
Of Congo speak different dialects, so it actually does matter. So
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter in which province you're in, which dialect they speak.
Again, with the red herrings, I want you to know you have to deal with someone of average or below average intelligence for these petty tactics to work. You're trying to skip over my main point. It's going to be very hard to distract me and trick me. Let me give you two pieces of advice. People who are smarter than you, you can't lie to them. People who are smarter than you, you can't trick them. So the best bet is just to be honest and humble. That's the best thing. I learned that the hard way. So I'm giving you good advice. I learned that the hard way.
I appreciate the advice, and I'll definitely consider it. But what specifically have I lied about?
Do you know how many times we had to redefine words that we all know the meaning of, like the word Christian? Do you know how many times we had to go through petty things because you didn't want to concede the argument? Like I said, what's the number one fear of every individual? And you didn't want to say death, but everyone else in the chat knew it was death, but you didn't. Do you know how many times there have been these petty things that you would not concede because you just have a need to be right so that you can defend your white sky daddy?
So you believe that there's a God in the sky. That's your antithesis for your argument.
No, sir. I do not believe that there is a God in the sky. It's like a bit of sarcasm about your belief system, which is completely Looney Tune.
Well, I don't necessarily believe there's a God in the sky, like a sky daddy in particular.
Yes, I know. You're just basing your beliefs on a book that has been translated and modified and done so by Europeans primarily, and something that's completely ridiculous. The idea that a being with infinite wisdom, who is ultimately good and cares about each and every one of us, allowed your people to be subjugated in their millions and allowed children to have their limbs cut off. Like the idea that you still believe in any God after that just shows me that religion is extraordinarily powerful in a bad way, in a very bad way.
It can certainly be used in a bad way. That's true.
There you go.
I choose to get my morals and ethics from that standpoint.
So what is the utility of a religion if half the time it's doing evil and half the time it's doing good? I'm just curious. What's the utility?
Well, you could make the same argument for atheism. There's atheists who do inherent
But we're not
good
discussing atheism, so we wouldn't
evil.
have to do that. We're not discussing atheism. And again, that's a red herring. You're going away from the actual topic. The topic is Christianity, not atheism. You're not an atheist. I'm not an atheist. So we're going to talk about Christianity. And I'm saying to you, for example, just give me a comparative basis. Help me out with this. The genocide that was done upon the Native Americans, those were Christians who did that. The genocide that happened to the Aboriginals in Australia, those were Christians who did that. The genocide that happened throughout Africa, and Africa is much larger than most people like you realize. It could fit 2 Europes in Africa. It's very large. It could fit the United States and China inside of Africa. It's very large. So imagine how widespread that genocide is. And that was done by Christians. Also, the colonization of Asia, which would also at times include China, was done by Christians. So if we add up all those bodies, I'm guessing it'd have to be at least 1 billion murders. And don't forget the R to the APE that occurred as well. Various forms of child abuse and all forms of cruelty and torture committed by Christians. So that's the bad side of your Christianity. Can you tell me measurably what was the good side? That balances that out. What was the good side?
I would say the abolitionist movement was a very good side, but you might disagree with me.
I dismantled that argument already at the very beginning. So would you provide an additional argument that has yet to be dismantled?
So you don't believe the abolitionist movement that ended slavery even in the
I'll
British
repeat,
colonies?
I dismantled that argument at the very beginning, and I did it
I don't think
very
you did.
quickly. Do you have an additional argument?
I think we actually skipped through it quite quickly. We didn't really address it that much. We went on to my Instagram instead.
Okay, I'll do it one more time. It's kind of like a magician. Sometimes you see the magician do the trick. You're like, hey, do that trick again. I gotcha. Oh, and by the way, folks, if you have any comments, questions, I know you guys are probably burning up to ask this gentleman some comments, share some comments, questions with him. You can also support this good work. Frankly, there really isn't much to watch on the internet, so you can give your thanks, ties, tuition questions here or comments for the gentleman. So you stated that the abolitionist movement was a good deed by Christians. Yes? Yes.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. Let me ask you a few questions to test your knowledge, which I know is in lack. That's why you put up that argument, which is very flimsy. Was the abolitionist movement as widespread as the movement to enslave? Question 1.
No.
Okay. No. Great. So clearly we can just simply say there was more evil Christians than there were good ones. That's number 1. Here's the number 2. As abolitionism gained steam, do you realize that technology had already existed that greatly reduced the necessity for having large populations of manual labor in the industries where slavery existed? Do you realize that?
Towards the end of the fall of the British Empire, yes, that's true.
Okay. Do you also realize that there were other economic imperatives that drove abolition, which were not ethical considerations? Like maybe the fact that if you have slave labor, it competes with low wage labor, like maybe some of the poor people in America who need jobs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And most importantly, this is the most important argument on why it's very flimsy to suggest that abolitionism was a great Christian contribution. Because if the Christians weren't so damn evil, you wouldn't have had slavery to begin with, so you wouldn't even need abolition. And that is why that argument is utterly pathetic.
So you believe that William Wilberforce and John Brown shouldn't have done what they did? You're advocating that it was a waste of time.
These tactics are very, very low quality. They're very low quality.
I'm just asking.
It's like politicians. This is what they do. So it's like, well, so you believe that men should be able to abuse women? You're like, wait, what? Like all I said is we should have equal rights. Yeah, so you believe men should be able to hit women and get away with it? But I just said we should have equal rights. Yeah, you're saying a man can hit a woman. No, I didn't say. That's what you're doing right now, just in case you're wondering why I'm giving this example. That's what you're doing. What I clarified is that the abolition that you hold in such high regard would have never been needed in the Western world or in the places that they colonized if the Christians, the white Christians that you praise so much, if they had not enslaved other human beings. If they never enslaved other human beings, you wouldn't need a John Brown. You wouldn't need a Wilberforce. Do you understand that much?
I understand that.
Okay.
You think that it wasn't necessary. I understand.
No, that's not what I said. You can't misinterpret my words because I'm very good with the English language. It was my first language. And then unlike you, it was my parents' first language. And then unlike you, it was my parents' parents' first language. And unlike you, it was my parents' 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 first language. I speak English at a mastery level, you see. My English comprehension is excellent. And I also have all of the credentials to prove that. I'm not just saying it, you see. You get me?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so when you say all these things about feelings and you think and you believe, let's be precise with language. We're not talking about feelings. We're not talking about beliefs. I'm using evidence. I'm referencing facts. And you'll notice my facts are precise and correct. Like when I ask you about your own history, you don't even know. And then I say, no, it was actually 1885. No, it was actually the Portuguese. No, it was actually this or that. You're the hazy one, not me. Don't project. It's not right. It disrespects both of us.
I'm sorry if you feel disrespected. That wasn't my
No,
intention.
I don't feel disrespected. I'm saying that when you project ignorance onto me, when you've only consistently displayed that you have ignorance, it disrespects both of us because I deserve esteem because I'm well studied and prepared. And you deserve to be respected for where you're at and your choice of ignorance. So I'm just saying, let us respect the truth.
I'll concede to that.
Beautiful. So if there was a way to rid someone of white supremacy, what do you think would be the methodology on that? Like if we wanted to get white supremacy out of you, what would be like step one, do you think?
Well, I personally am not a white supremacist, but maybe an inherent psychoanalysis would have to do.
That's deep. That's deep. Have you ever heard, like, do your parents think you're going to marry a Congolese woman?
Yeah, they actually hope so. They keep telling me I should get married now because I just turned 30 actually. So
No
they're
kidding.
hoping I get married real soon. Yeah.
Well, you look good. You look real good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, my prayer goes out to you. It really does. And do you have any more arguments as to why Christianity is not a white supremacist religion? I realize it's kind of like arguing that Sudanese are not dark skinned, but carry on.
No, like you, like I tend to usually stay away from the religion topic because it can be quite divisive and quite frankly, it doesn't really do much good, I think, for most people. But I was happy that you allowed me to come on your platform and speak, and I appreciate your time, sincerely.
Likewise, I appreciate your time. I respect the way you've conducted yourself. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And God willing, you're able to get over to Congo. It needs strong, intelligent men, which would not make it unique in Africa. But it's obviously a beautiful land with a lot of richness that people don't know of. I think they only know of the mineral wealth there. But anyways, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective and being articulate. Until next time, peace to the saints.
Thank you.